Hari Om to everyone else. Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om Shuklam Bardharam Vishnum Shashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vignopasantaye. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharya Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagini Vyoma Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpathyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Sri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangavadakramo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavasthitadadgatena manasa Pashyanti yam yoginaha Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Sri Chinmayati Shasya Guru Vande Tapovanam Tam himavad vibhutim vai jnana vairagya rupinam Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavitvaram Sadgurum Brahmavitvaram. Hari Om to everyone else. Today we will discuss about the another aspect of Brahman, that is called Chit. That is called Chit. Chit or consciousness. Frankly speaking, Brahman has no attributes but is existence, knowledge, and bliss. Bliss absolute. Existence, we have seen, is the very ultimate generalization which the human mind can come to. Knowledge does not mean the knowledge we have, but the essence of that which is expressing itself In the course of evolution in human beings or in other animals as knowledge. The essence of that knowledge is meant the ultimate fact beyond, if I may be allowed to say so, even consciousness. That is what is meant by knowledge and what we see in the universe as the essential unity of things. The word consciousness is being used recently. Chit means consciousness is being used recently. Earlier, Chit was translated as knowledge. The first qualification of that which is beyond mind and thought was being, Sat. Its second absolute is consciousness. That is, it is the opposite of inertia. Whatever awareness, knowledge, lack of ignorance, and so on, we notice are because of this consciousness. According to Vedanta, the three fundamental factors of consciousness are I exist, I know, and I am blessed. So, the idea that I have no want, that I am restful, I am peaceful, that nothing can disturb me, which comes from time to time, which is the central fact of our being, the basic principle of our life, and when it becomes limited and becomes a compound, it manifests itself as existence phenomenal, knowledge phenomenal, and love. Every man or woman exists, and every man or woman must know, and every man and woman is mad for love. He or she can't help loving. Through all existence, from the lowest to the highest, all must love. That I, the eternal thing in itself, which combining with mind, manufacture existence, knowledge, and love, is called by the Vedantis existence absolute, knowledge absolute, and bliss absolute. Now the student asked the question, Chit Kim, Chit Kim, Jnana Swarupaha, Jnana Swarupaha. Student asked, what is consciousness? Guru is replying, it is of the nature of the absolute knowledge, Jnana Swarupaha. Knowledge of the world is gained as thoughts of the mind. Without thoughts, no knowledge of any object is possible. This is a book, I am hungry, I do not understand, and so on are thoughts of the mind. Without me, the thoughts cannot be known. I illumine all my thoughts while remaining different from them. I not only illumine the presence of my thoughts, but also their absence. If I ask you, all of you, a silly question, that were you present in 1840? Everyone will look at me with a bewildered eyes. But what the person is asking? A stupid question. 1840, is it a question? Okay. Can you prove that you were not? Yes. Our birth certificate, Aadhaar card, our voter I card says our year of birth. It may be 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960, and so on. No question of 1840. But my dear, if you were not there, how you can claim your absence? There was absence of this body. How you can claim that if you were not there? So, thoughts come and go, but I remain unchanging and ever shining. Then who illumines the self? None can illumine the self. It being the subject, the self can never be known as an object of knowledge. Atma cannot be known as the subject of knowledge or object of knowledge. What about the knowledge we concern? This is vritti jnanam, or modification of thoughts. Also, there is no need to illumine the Atma or self, because it is self-shining. The sun doesn't need any torchlight to be illumined. I always know that I am. I do not know anyone else to tell me so. Even in the deep sleep state, when the mind is not functioning, I am. and I know that I am, as I get up saying, oh, I slept well. If I was not there, then who can claim it? This self-shining, ever-shining knowledge principle is called Chit or consciousness, which is my true nature. Chit doesn't mean Chittam. Chit is Cheta, Chetana. Knowledge is of two types. One sort of knowledge comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. And it is required also. That going is required also. If it doesn't go, then how the new knowledge will take place? Because the most usefulness of a cup is its emptiness. Am I right? The most usefulness of a cup is its emptiness. So that intellectual knowledge which comes and goes, and that going is verily required to know something new. But you should know that knowledge comes in the intellect level and it comes and goes. But what about the Swarupa Jnanam, about the intrinsic, the basic knowledge of self or self-knowledge or consciousness? Never goes. All the thoughts come and go, but consciousness alone, which illumine all the thoughts, that never goes, and that consciousness is called Chit. This is the knowledge alone where K is capital, means absolute knowledge. It doesn't come and go. Because of Sat, everything exists. But because of Chit, everything is known. It has no arrival, no departure. The phrase Sat Chit Ananda means existence, consciousness, or knowledge, and bliss, which is the same as love. There is no controversy between the bhakta or the devotees and the jnani, the wise, regarding the Sat aspect of Brahman. Only the jnanis, or who work out with the knowledge always, or the realized soul, regarding the Sat, uh, the jnanis lay greater stress on his aspect of Chit or knowledge. When bhakta or the lover, the supreme lover, keep the aspect of ananda or love more in view, but no sooner is the essence of Chit realized than the essence of Ananda is also realized, because what is Chit is verily the same as Ananda. How can one realize such a consciousness? Sri Ramakrishna says, though the awakening of the inner consciousness, one realizes the all-pervading consciousness. Now the question is, what is Ananda? The another aspect of Brahman. I am full of bliss. Once upon a time, Brahmaji, not Brahman or not Brahma. I know it is not, it is verily clear to you, but for the Westerners, they are confused. What is Brahma? What is Brahman? What is Brahman? And what is Brahma? So the game is there in the prolonged pronunciation of the vowel. Brahman and Brahma are same, which is short vowel. But when at the end the vowel will be prolonged, Brahma, it is concerned with a person who is the creator, Brahmaji, respected creator of this whole universe. So once upon a time, Brahmaji, the creator, had a desire to come down to earth and lead the life of living being, his own creation. He chose not the body of a human being, but that of the pig. To be a swine is not all that bad. But the moment Brahmaji, the creator, became the pig, he became engrossed with the pig life. He married a good-looking soul and raised a wonderful family. He granted and hunted food for the family day and night. He was thrilled whenever he moved about the ditch water. The sweet fragrance of the ditch water, the germs and the worms that flowed in it, everything appealed to the Brahmaji pig. He was full of bliss. The gods above were concerned. They had waited long for their leader, Brahmaji, the creator, to return home, but he was busy on the earth. Deciding to call him back, the gods came down, stood near the ditch where the pig family's residence was, and called upon Brahmaji to return home. No, I shall not, replied Brahmaji's family and Brahma. I am full of bliss here, and I have a beautiful family with an obedient wife and well-educated children. The way my eldest son swims in ditch water is exciting. I shall not come back. The gods were puzzled and worried too. how to bring back the chief of their clan to senses. At last, they hit upon a plan. One of the gods tore apart the pig body, and the moment the body was gone out, came Brahmaji laughing at his own foolishness of attachment to ditch water bliss. There is an aphorism in Brahma Sutra 3.3.11 which says that bliss should be understood as all pervasive. For the simple reason that Brahman, not Brahmaji, Brahman, all pervasive Brahman, which is really all pervasive, everything is bliss. Everywhere there is bliss. Madhu vataritayate madhuksharanti sindhavaha. The air spreads sweetness. The water exudes sweetness. Everything is sweetness, says the Rig Veda. The freedom which the saint seeks, since the sages seeks, is very different from that which the robber seeks. The freedom loved by the saint leads him to the enjoyment of infinite or infinite, unspeakable bliss, while that on which the robber has set his heart only forges other bounds for his soul. This is because our nature, means if the question is there, then why do we seek bliss? This is because our nature is bliss. Our essential nature is one of bliss, since we are being consciousness, bliss absolute itself. In deep sleep, when we are aware of nothing else but the causal body, we enjoy a faint taste of that bliss. The taste lingers. So we search for bliss always. Swami Vivekananda once spoke regarding why we should seek that immortal bliss. Having once realized that supreme bliss, one is no more overwhelmed by pleasure and pain of this world. Men or women being fettered by base, lust and wealth cannot enjoy that bliss of Brahman. There was a disciple who was listening to these words of Swami Vivekananda. He asked him, if it is so, and if we are really of the essence of the Supreme Brahman, then why do we not exert ourselves to gain that bliss? Why do we again and again run into the jaws of death being decoyed by this worthless snare of lust and wealth. Swami Vivekananda replied to him, "You speak as if man does not desire to have that bliss or ponder over it. And you will see that whatever any more is doing, he is doing in the hope of gaining that supreme bliss. Only not everyone is conscious of it and so cannot understand it. That supreme bliss fully exists in all, from Brahmaji, the creator, down to the blade of grass. You are also that unveiled, undivided Brahman. This very moment you can realize, if you think yourself truly and absolutely to be so. It is all mere want of direct perception. Once I met a very big Mahatma in the Himalayas. Then he was 125. Maybe since last 100 years he never came down. So one disciple asked him, "But how can I make you understand that the Jagat is verily perceivable to us? Why can't you see Jagat?" And that Mahatma replied, "My dear son, I am really surprised that how do you see Jagat? For him, the Brahma Jnanam, or the knowledge of the truth, was so easy. He was so established in it that the whole Jagat, the whole universe, was falsified to him. He told that you have taken service and worked so hard for the sake of your wife also shows that the aim is ultimately to attain to that supreme bliss of Brahman. Whenever a thief steals something else to satisfy the hunger of his wife or children, the thing is, the ultimatum is that bliss. If you think, you can understand. Being again and again entangled in the intricate maze of delusion and hard hit by sorrows and afflictions, the eye will turn of itself to one's own real nature, the inner self. It is owing to the presence of this desire for bliss in the heart that man or woman getting hard shocks, one after another shock, turns his or her eye inward to his or her own self. A time is sure to come to everyone, without exception, when he or she will do so To one, it may be in this life, to another, or after thousands of lives. One has to be concentrated towards this supreme bliss. It was clear, therefore, that we are all seeking supreme bliss that is within us. Most of us are unaware of it and looking the wrong way. To be conscious and seek that source of everlasting bliss is our goal. Hence, the Vedanta, a perfectly scientific system, comes forward to awaken us. The student asks the question, Anandaha kaha sukhaswarupam. Student asks the question, what is that bliss? And Guru replied, it is sukhaswarupaha. It is of the nature of happiness. A thing is dear to me only when it gives me joy. I love my house as it is a place that gives me comfort and joy and little bit of security that nobody will tell me to get out from here. I love myself the most. I love others for my sake, but I love myself unconditionally, totally, eternally. All are loved for one's sake. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priya bhavati. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priya bhavati. Brihadaranya Upanishad 2.4.5. Therefore, I must be the source of absolute happiness. There is sorrow in finitude only. The self is beyond time, space, and objects. It is infinite and hence of the nature of absolute bliss. Each thing tends to move towards its own nature. I always desire happiness, which is my true nature. Once, one student was running for the university. He was asked, why you are running? No, the time is going to be over. I'm the first boy, topper of the university. What are you going to do? I'm going first to study. What is the use of study? If I study more, I will get more number, more I can score more. Oh, what next? There will be campus interview. A lot of big companies will come. And the company which will provide me the greater salary, I will go into there. But why? I need money. Why do you need money? No, I don't. I need my own house, my own car. I want to give little bit comfort to my parents. Then for why you need a big house? Because I want to marry. Oh, really? Then I need children also. Where they will? Then why that money? No, I will grow older and money will help us. But help to for what? I can purchase everything else which will give me the comfort. What next? Comfort makes me happy. So whole the life we spend only to reach that goal, to reach that absolute bliss. But we don't know this is our own intrinsic nature. My nature is never a burden to me. Happiness is never a burden to me when sorrow is verily burden. You know better than me. Then why don't I experience this happiness? Why I am miserable or dissatisfied most of the time when my intrinsic nature is the supreme bliss? The desire in my mind for objects will this happiness. In moments when I am peaceful, I do experience joy within myself. It is Sukha Swarupaha. General happiness is that which comes and goes. We see generally that we become happy for something else, for someone else, but it goes away. It goes away immediately. But that cannot be our own intrinsic nature. That is the dharma of our kosha. That is the attribute of the seed. And that happiness, that worldly happiness has gradation. What we discussed in the discussion of Anandamaya Kosha or bliss seeds, that Priya, Moda, Pramoda, etc. But those all happiness are Koshamaya Ananda. This is the worldly happiness is felt in the bliss seed. But the Ananda we are discussing now is the nature of my own, is constant. It is infinite. Infinite cannot be two. Therefore, Sat equals to Chit equals to Ananda equals to Ananta. And that infinite cannot be expressed. And that Ananta, that Sat is Chit, is Ananda, is Ananta, is Brahman, and that is I am. Existence is knowledge. Knowledge is the absolute bliss. Absolute bliss is nothing but the infinite, and that infinite is referred as Brahman or Brahma, and that is I am. This happiness is different from what we experience. Actually, our day-to-day happiness depend on the transaction. They are incidental or transient. This is not the inherent bliss. The purpose of Vedanta is not to become happy, but only to know that I am happiness alone. A senior monk remarked once that while the Veda declares that everything is Ananda bliss, the Buddha remarked that everything is dukkha, sorrow. This is the basic difference between the two paths. In Panchadashi, 11th chapter, 13th verse, it is told, all beings are born of bliss and live by bliss, pass on to bliss, and are finally reabsorbed in it. There is therefore no doubt that Brahman is bliss. In the phenomenal state, when we have the body, mind, and self, we think this universe, especially this world, is full of misery. But when the self is attained, when the mirage is discovered, there is only bliss. One day, Dr. Mahendralal Sarkar had come to visit Sri Ramakrishna. Suddenly, Sri Ramakrishna went into the ecstasy or spiritual mood and said to Dr. Sarkar, Mahin Babu, what is this madness of your about money? Why such attachment to wife? Why such longing for name and fame? Give up all these now and direct your mind to God with whole soul devotion. Enjoy the bliss of God. Engaging oneself in doing good to others, forgetting the ideal, was not the way Sri Ramakrishna taught. He spoke of the greatest philanthropist of his times, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. He told Vidyasagar ji that one needs sadhana, intense practice. Mere study of the scriptures will not do everything. Sri Ramakrishna told him that I noticed that thought Vidyasagar had no doubt read a great deal. He had not realized what was inside him. He was satisfied with helping boys get their education, but had not tasted the bliss of God. What will mere study accomplish? Therefore, Tattvabodha declares now that the self has to be known. I will take a little more time today to finish up this factor. There is a dialogue in a heaven. A person went to heaven and knocked at the gate. The gatekeeper asked him, "Who are you?" The person answered, "I am Mr. So and so." Gatekeeper told, "I didn't want your name on earth. Who are you?" The person told, "You want to know my occupation? I was a businessman before I died." Gatekeeper told, "No, I didn't want to know what you were doing. Who are you?" The person told, "Oh, I am Mrs. So and so's husband." Gatekeeper, "I don't want whose husband you were. Who are you?" And the dialogue continued for a long time. At last, the gatekeeper said, "So you don't know who you are? Then go back and know who you are." But why should we know ourselves? Both happiness and misery are chains. The one golden and the other is iron. But both are equally strong to bind us and hold us back from realizing our true nature. The Atma knows neither happiness nor not misery. These are mere states, avastha. The states must ever change. The nature of the soul is bliss and peace unchanging. We have not get it. We have not to get it. We have it. Let us wash away the dross from our eyes and see it. We must stand ever on the self and look with perfect calmness upon all the panorama of the world. It is but baby's play and ought to never to disturb us. Swami Vivekananda told. Nazrul Islam wrote a very famous song, you know. Khelicho ebi sholoe বিরাট শিশু অনমনে খেলিছ. A big baby is playing with this universe. Anamane, indifferently. Long ago, the Delphic oracles have declared, "Know yourself." This was taken by Socrates and other Greek philosophers as the standard of meaningful life. Then mysticism begins when the truth within is revealed to us in whichever language, that of the devotees as the vision of God, or of the jnani as the realization of truth. The self is clouded by ignorance. Our efforts are not to know but to remove the clouds. Then knowledge stands self-revealed. If knowledge had a beginning, it would have an end. And once again we would have been deluded. So knowledge is always there. We are ignorant of it. That's all. Tattva Bodha now asks us to strive to know the truth. Evam Satchidananda Swarupam Swatmanam Vijaniyat. Guru is telling. Evam, thus, Satchit Ananda Swarupam, the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss, Swa Atmanam, of oneself, Vijaniyat, should be known. So, one should know oneself to be of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. The self is not the nature of existence, the self is of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. A rose is fragrant to smell, red in color, and soft to feel. The smell, color, and touch are three qualities of the same rose. However, existence, consciousness, bliss are not attributes but aspects of oneself. A quality always belongs to a substance, and a substance always has a name and form. The self is beyond all names, forms, and qualities. Then are existence, consciousness, and bliss different from one another? That may be the question. The self is partless. Therefore, existence is partless. Consciousness is partless. Bliss is partless. The self is infinite and there cannot be two infinites. Therefore, also existence, consciousness, and bliss are really one. Then why are there three names? The three names indicate the nature of the self from different standpoints. For example, with respect to the inert world, the self is called consciousness. However, I know that I am, and I am always dear to myself. Aham asmi sada bhami kadachinna aham apriyam. Advaita Makaranda says that I am and I am always dear to myself is a single experience based on which I transact in the world. We should know our infinite nature. As on knowing it, we get liberated from all sorrows for all times to come. How can we know it? The self should be known by listening, reflecting, and meditating on it. Atmava are drostabhyaha, srotabhyaha, mantabhyaha, and nididhyasitabhyaha. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 2.4.5. One may have heard about it, reflected upon it, and even attempted meditation, yet one may not realize the self. The experience may still be only at an intellectual level, or which is also called paroksha jnanam. This is because the preparation of the mind is not sufficient. By doing enough karma yoga, doing seva to own guru or teacher, by practicing bhakti yoga or love or other means of mind should be made pure, subtle, and single pointed. means sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. The knowledge gets firmly rooted in such a mind, and the self is directly experienced, which is called aparoksha jnanam. Since time immemorial, we have been thinking that we are the body and are taking repeated births. There has been no end to our coming and going. We have been enduring endless suffering, thinking that is called life. However, there has been one thing that is called hope. That someday, sometime, we may be happy. This vain hope has been leading us nowhere. Rather, it has been taking us round and round and round and round. Birth and death, suffering and suffering. The one thing I just want to tell you, it will go too much deeper. Up to that. Atmavare drashtavyah srotavyah mantavyah nididhyasitavyah. One should do it to know, not to attain. The acharyas sometimes falsely use this word because we can only understand this language, that you have to attain bliss. Bliss cannot be attained. We are the happiness that should be known. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om to everyone else.
हरिओम
एक प्रश्न है
हरिओम स्वामी जी
Yes.
एक प्रश्न है कि हरिओम
हाँ बोलिए अम्मा.
हाँ नहीं आई वाज नॉट कुडंट सी यू. अब प्रिय मोद और प्रमोद इसका डिफरेंस बता दीजिए तो.
You know, something is dear to us. Maybe it is far from me, but I love it. That is Priya.
I love it.
But it is not reachable to me.
Okay.
When I get it, that is moda.
जब मिलता है.
Yes. And when we start enjoying it, that is pramoda. Prakrishta rupena modate iti pramoda, which gives me the extensive joy from this Vishaya is called pramoda.
Actually, is a pramoda is a enjoying time. बाकी तो मिलने वाला है.
Yes. Anything more? Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji. Thank you very much.
Hari Om. We will meet
Hari Om,
again at
Hari Om,
11 o'clock.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om. Hari
Hari
Om.
Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om to everyone.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.